Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. In this episode I'll be going just over sketching in Solidworks. So this is on Solidworks 2019. Most of these should maybe go across to older or newer versions of the software. But here we go. So to start off with, I'm just going to do a sketch on, let's say, the top plane. So just left click on the top plane icon up here, and I've just hit on sketch. You can also do the same by going up to the top here to the sketch icon and click on sketch. And then I can't see anything because I've got everything hidden here, so I'm going to unhide all types of planes and whatnot to show some planes. I'm going to zoom around by pressing in the middle scroll wheel, and I can hit the top plane as well. So some of the basic tools. First of all, I'm going to start off with some construction lines or center lines and stuff like that. So I'm just going to I'm going to hold in the right click button, and I'm going to go to the left, right mouse click that is, and over here we've actually got a few options. We've got for construction, infinite length, and midpoint line. The main two I use a lot are the construction and infinite length line. So these are really good for making center lines or planes where you're going to planes in a 2D axis, I should say. So lines which you're going to mirror about or just build around or whatnot. So I'm going to go for construction, infinite length, and I'm going to go okay, yep. So I clicked on the middle there. So normally you can always pick up this middle point there. So construction, infinite length. Click here, and it should snap. See how it's got that little yellow icon there? It should snap to the horizontal or vertical plane by itself. So now, first tip, this line's now black, as you can see, which is actually plays a significant role. So if I go same again, but I come over here and I do that, so it's not really snapped right. It's now got this blue line, which is saying that it's not constrained at all. So now if I click on this and I drag it, it actually moves. Whereas this line, because it's actually got a vertical constraint on it, which locked itself in when I was laying it down, it's locked in there, right? It's not moving anywhere. But this line is. So if I go to draw a line on there, so I go just a regular line. Let's say I want a triangle. Let's do something that gets mirrored. So we'll go down a bit further. So notice other things too, right? So this is blue, this line's blue, this line is blue, and this line is blue. Along with this vertex here is also blue, which just means they're not defined, right? So now I'm going to go right click, drag up to pull out my dimension tool. And if I start adding dimensions to these things, if I go 100, it goes, okay, cool, I'm going to lock this point in here. It is now 100. So that's no longer blue. This line's also defined now. I might actually delete this line because I think I want to do a mirror off that. And then I'll go and dimension this line. So another 100. And that's that, right? So the only thing that's not defined is this. So there's two things that aren't no, there's only one thing, sorry. Yeah, so it's length or the angle of this, right? So I could define that by going, okay, this needs to be 150. And now both of these things are defined because these two are mated essentially. So they've got a collinear mate on them, or a relationship, what they called. So what one's doing, the other's doing. And so this is now constrained by this 150. So if I go down to 140, they're both going to move for me. Now I'm going to just delete that. So to delete this, I'm going to click and drag it a little bit, and then it's going to give me a few options so I can change, obviously this isn't important in the CAD room, I'm going to call it, not the drafting drawing room. You can change like tolerances and stuff like that. I mean, you could probably do it here and it might carry over. I've not done that. I normally just do all that in the drawing section in the file new. I believe it's called drawing. Hang on, new. Yeah, the drawing tab. But so I'm just going to delete that, and now I'm actually going to set this at an angle. So before I do that, I'm actually going to put another construction line in through there. See, for some reason, sometimes this happens, it doesn't. This one hasn't locked itself in, or it doesn't think it is. I've just gone to click and drag it, and then it's figured itself out and said, oh wait, hang on a second, I am actually constrained there. And it's changed from blue to black. Bit of a, I don't know if it's a bug or a glitch or whatever it is, but occasionally that happens. But yeah, so I can go and set this dimension here off an angle. So if I go, I don't know, 60, 45, I don't know, 45, that's that done. So let's go on to mirrors now. So mirrors are pretty simple. So I just click the mirror entities to mirror. So I want to mirror all of these lines here. So I'm just going to click and drag with the left click button. I've selected all of these, and then it's going to mirror about this point here. Done. Now another thing to note though is it's actually picked up, see how it's picked up these lines here? So when I click and drag, I might go, oh yeah, okay, but I don't really want to, bring these construction lines over. So I'm just holding in Control while I click to select or unselect those lines as well. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. So mirror about plane, this plane here. Okay, done. The next one to go on to, I believe, is the not the linear sketch, the pattern sketch pattern. So you've got your your circular or just your regular patterns too, right? So let's say if we want to have some circles around here, so right click, go to the right, get my circle out. Now for snapping, right? So snapping's a bit isn't the best, I'd say, compared to some other softwares. But if I go, for instance, if I want to snap to this, it'll work fine. So this is now snapped onto this line here, and it won't move. But if I have, so for instance, if I snap on this here, because it's a point, it'll have no problems whatsoever. But if I've got, so if I add another for construction infinite length, I want one down here, for instance, and I define that to be this distance away, 50, and I go, oh, I want this on these 2 points. It doesn't actually add a point by default, so I can't quickly snap to that. So there's two things you can do here. You can either draw it somewhere else and go, okay, I'll draw it over here then, and then what I do is I click this point here. I'm going to hold in Control, select this line here, and now I can add relationships. So I can go, okay, I want to constrain it to you. I'm going to click off. I'm going to click again. I'm holding in Control. Click this line, constrain, coincidence, sorry, and now it is locked to that point. The other alternative is to do the exact same, but using a point instead. So go point. So I'm going to just drop it down instead of trying to get this intersection. It just won't automatically snap. So I'm going to go point. I'm holding Control. I'll select this line here. Coincident. Do the same again. And that's now locked on there. And then so if I want to draw a circle on there, it'll snap to that very nicely. Now there's another tool where we can, now I've got a bunch of these circles here, right, which aren't, I want them all to be the same size, but I don't want to have 40 different dimensions saying make this whole 8mm wide, basically. So to dimension, I'm going to go up after holding in the right mouse click. Select that. I'm going to go 8 because I want my hole to be 8mm. Now instead of going, okay, same again, let's go 8, and then we'll go over here and go 8, and then something happens and it's like, oh wait, we're not going to fit a M8 bolt through there, we need to put an M10 through there, or whatever. I mean, you wouldn't have 8 for 8, but so you want to go, oh, let's change this to 11 now. These, you're going to have to go through and change them all, and this is just bad sort of modeling, I'd say. So I'm going to delete those. So as I said before, to do that, you want to drag it first, and then it will select it. It will come up with this menu here, and then you can delete by pressing the delete key on your keyboard. So coming back to this, so I go, yep, 11. Now, while you can snap, sometimes it snaps when you're quick drawing, but it doesn't actually lock it in, unfortunately. So you have to select this circle. Now I'm going to hold in control here. I'm going to select this one, and then over here I can click this equals key, and now they're all driven off this one circle. So if I want to change that back to 8, they're all now 8, which is lovely. Now, I think I was in the middle of doing a pattern. So, with our pattern tool, so I'm going to delete that, and delete that, and delete that one. Let's start with the round one, why not? So, that, and then I go, yep, I want to click this one, and then it instantly selects this point here, because it goes, oh, well, what are you sort of modeling around? So it goes, oh, yep, this point here, how many do you want? 4, 3, whatever. What's the, there's other parameters here which you can change it. Maybe I only want to go around 180. That means it's starting from here and finishing there. Maybe I want to spin that around the other way. So I'm going to click this reverse direction. So now it's going 1, 2, 3. So maybe I don't want to do 180. Maybe I want to do, what's this? 90. 90. Let's flip that around on me. So I just put a negative in there, but it's the same as clicking this button here. And then I press OK, and those are there. Unfortunately, it says it's got the blue thing there, saying it's not defined. It's because my point isn't defined here. So if I lock this point into that, and I go constrain, that's now locked in there. So we can change that. So in terms of changing things like patterns in Prost, there's no actual model tree for it. Like there's no sketch model tree. You can adjust it minorly. Like you see how there's this 3 here. So if I click on that, get out of that. I can change that to be 5, and there's now 5 things going around. And there's a few different options, but it's not, I can't go in there and change the whole everything, unfortunately. Another tool which I almost forgot to mention is using midpoints. So for instance, if I want to get, so midpoints normally snap anyway, right? So if I sit on this line for long enough, it will show me, oh, that's where the midpoint is. So I'll bring an example over here. If I draw a line, I can actually, you sort of pop up there, snap to that midpoint fairly easy, which is kind of handy. If you're struggling to find it, you can also go, you got your line there, line coming in here. Hang on, let's maybe make some square things happen. So line here, line there, and just like before, there's many different relationships you can add. So if it's not perpendicular, perpendicular. If you want it concentric, if it's at a circle, all that sort of stuff pops up here when you select 2 different lines or whatever. So if I want that to be in the middle, so if I select this point here and this line here, midpoint, there you go. So obviously it's not going to do it if it's if you can't pick this, because it's the lines. I mean, the line could be perpendicular, but it might not be. So for instance, coming in at an angle, I can still make this the midpoint of that, and it comes in at that angle. So if I drag this, it's always going to be the midpoint, but this angle can still change. But yeah, so there's a bunch of handy different tools in there, and then constraining. So obviously you want to make sure that your points are always constrained, no matter what. Worst case, if you can't constrain it to anything, you can press this fix, this little anchor button, and no matter where it is or what it's doing, it'll just lock that point in space. So instead of it being, I can't drag this point around now. So if I want to change this, see this point here, which isn't fixed, I can still move this around and just adjust that as such. But because this point's been fixed in space, um, it's not going anywhere. And to delete that, you can just, if you select the little, click on that, and then press the delete key, and that's gone now. So that's the same with any other constraints. But anyway, I think that's all for this tutorial video about sketches. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks. See ya.